Shalom, our very dear friends, and welcome to the new book of Vayikra, which is the central book of Torah. As you know, Torah is made of 5 books. The middle book is Vayikra. So it's so interesting that in the kindergarten it starts with this part, with this book. You know, I always was questioning that. How is it that in kindergarten, when they want to start to teach Torah, they start with Vayikra, which is about Mishkan, which is about sacrifices. Why they don't start with the first book, the Genesis? Such a beautiful stories. Yeah, even great, good bed night stories. So how is it that they start with Vayikra? And I think I have come up with an answer, and that is because when education of our kids begins, we need to tell them what education is all about. And that is a sacrifice. When you want to learn, you sacrifice being out there playing, just having fun. But when you want to discipline the kids to study, you're going to teach them that life is about sacrifices, and they need to sacrifice one thing to have another thing. And I think that's such a great message of Vayikra. And by the way, it's very interesting that, you know, Quran in a lot of ways similar to Torah. And how did they get the name of Quran? Quran is Vayikra. Vayikra in Arabic becomes Quran, which they got the central book of Torah, and they named the central book of Torah Vayikra Quran, which is in English is Quran. Also, that's another very interesting thing. And what is this word Vayikra, which is so fascinating? They even called Quran after that. We'll come back to that for a minute. But first, let's take a look at what is the point of this Parasha, and what was the point of the book of Shemot that we just finished? Last week we looked at it from one angle. We want to get looking at it from another angle. One question that you should always ask, is a great question to ask, is that what is the point? Whatever you do, you should ask, what's the point of what I'm doing? And whatever you see, whatever you spend your time, you should always ask, what is the point? So what was the point of book of Shemot? You know, one way to describe that is that it was freedom from Egypt, which we talk about it next week for the Parasha when we celebrate Passover, formation of a Jewish nation, and building the Mishkan. So what was the point of Mishkan? You know, we talked about it last week, but now I want to ask a question from a different way, is that what's the most important thing in Mishkan? As you know, many people brought gold, silver, copper, and a lot of other precious things that they brought to build Mishkan. So what's the most precious thing? That's a good question. And that tells you what's the point of Mishkan, which of course you know that Hashem says, build the Mishkan so that I can dwell in you, not in the Mishkan. You build the Mishkan, I dwell in you. So what is this Mishkan that once we build it, Hashem comes and dwell in us? So Talmud asked the question, and it says that Hashem says between everything that they brought in, there is one thing which is most precious to me. And before I tell you what that thing is, actually, when they brought that thing, Moshe says, this is not acceptable, we're not going to take it, take this back, we don't want it. And Hashem says, no, let them bring this. And this is the most precious thing to me. So what is it that becomes source of dispute between Moshe and Hashem in building Mishkan? And that is the mirror. The mirror that women used to beautify themselves and arouse the feeling of their husband to sleep together and make babies, that the woman brought. And Moshe says, this is vanity. So let's take a look at it. Why Moshe says, no, we don't want to take it, and why Hashem says it's the best thing, let's take it. So Moshe is looking at mirror is something that you see yourself in, and Moshe says we don't want to have it because it's all about selfishness, that people want to be selfish and they just look at themselves. And Hashem says, no, exactly the opposite. Because the women in Egypt, they were not using the mirror for their own sake. They were using the mirror to be beautifying themselves for their husband and for continuity of Jewish nation. And so it's such an amazing thing that one thing, which is the mirror, could be point of selfishness, the way Moshe says, or when you look at it the other way, that what I'm doing is for the good of everyone and uplifting the family, then it becomes the most precious thing to Hashem. And actually another point which is related to this and fascinating is that you know that in Beit HaMikdash there is the Mishkan, that in the Mishkan they put the Torah that they received from Hashem, right? So you would think this is the highest point of Beit HaMikdash, the Torah which is written by Hashem and is given, they put in there. But you know something? There is something which is above that. What's above that? The cherubim. The cherubim is two statues. Again, if anyone else would have said that, we would say it's not Jewish, don't accept it. But God himself comes and says, yes, this is what I want you to do. In as much as I told you, don't ever make a statue in any synagogue in Beit HaMikdash, but two statues you make. One look like a man, one look like a woman, and that is above everything. Above the Aaron is on that. And I want them to look at themselves, and each of them focuses on the other one, and that is the whole point of Beit HaMikdash. And if you do that, and if you're not selfish and you're focusing on the other person to uplift that, that is the point of Beit HaMikdash. And this is how we ended the book of Shemot, and now this is how we gonna start the book of Vayikra, of what happens inside the Beit HaMikdash, that Mishkan that they built. And tonight I'm just coming to talking to a very, very dear friend of mine getting married. And what I told him is that tomorrow night, which is the wedding, Bezat Hashem, you don't worry about anyone else, all the guests, because all the guests are there to make you and your wife happy. So don't worry about it. Anything goes up and down, good and bad, whatever, it doesn't matter. Your only mission is to focus on your wife and make sure that she's having the time of her life, and she should also do the same thing with you. This is the cherubim, looking at above Aaron, above Torah, above everything else, the love of man and woman. That is what's most precious thing to Hashem. This is the point of building Beit HaMikdash, and that's a point of building our home. That's a point of building our heart, and this is how we bring Hashem in us. Now, everything I told you is all from Jewish sources. I want to tell you something that I have not seen any other Mefarshim say what I'm about to tell you. So because it is my own idea, I want to first tell you, but I believe that it is right because of other things which I tell you. So the name Vayikra is calling of endearment, the love. And so first let me read the first sentence. You see how strange this is? And I tell you what all the Mefarshim say, and I'm going to tell you a chidush, a new discovery that I had on this. And I believe if you get that, it's really a transformative thing to change your life. So let me read to you what it says. Again, remember, this is a new book, complete new book of Vayikra, and this is how it begins. He called to Moshe, and Hashem spoke to him from the tent of meeting. I promise you, if you write this as a book that you want to write, your teacher will flunk you, because you can never start a book by saying he. Who is he? So all the Mefarshim say he is God. They say God called to Moshe and God spoke to Moshe. That's how they all understand it. To me, that's strange, and I think it's something else. My question is, what does it take for Hashem to talk to us? What happened that Moshe is so dear to Hashem, that Hashem comes and with a lot of love wants to talk to him? And so I would like to interpret where he says, he called to Moshe, Moshe is calling to Moshe. He here, in my opinion, is not Hashem, he is Moshe. He, being the soul of Moshe, called to Moshe, this person whose name is Moshe. When you wake up and when you call upon yourself and you awaken yourself to say, who am I? What's my purpose in life? And how am I a better person? That's how Hashem comes and talks to you. So I want to give you two basic reasons that I want to prove to you that this is what it is. Because I talked about the mirror. One of the purposes of the mirror is to look at yourself to say, wow, how can I look more beautiful? Look at me. Or one, when you look at mirror, you see your soul, you see your whole action, you see, who am I in this life? Where am I in this life? And then you take a look at inside you by the looking at the mirror in Beit HaMikdash, and they say, wow, I'm much better than this. I can do much better than this. And that's what one of the point of Beit HaMikdash is. This is why these mirrors are so dear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is what Moshe is doing. Moshe is looking at Moshe and to say, where are you, Moshe? And then it says, and Hashem spoke to him, and Hashem says, I love you. When you ask this question, when you want to become bigger, when you want to grow, then I will talk to you. So my dear friend, we have only a week left to Passover. So I want you to really start to think this week, who am I? Look at your whole life and to say, where can I be a better person in every way possible? And come up with the ways and be ready to take the chametz out and be great. Be a human, amazing human being and have an amazing year, better than ever. Shabbat Shalom.